Back in the 80s, they found a body in a reservoir over there. The body belonged to a man, but the man had parts of him missing. This was a nightmare, I thought. I'm in a living hell. The freedom this job gave me has now been forcibly stripped away. But the crazy part is his internal organs were missing. They found 2 small holes in his chest. That's how they removed them. They sucked the organs right out of him.
Stop! Just stop, I bellowed at her, like I should have done minutes ago. It's the middle of the night and I don't need to hear this. We're nearly at the next town already, so why don't we just remain quiet for the time being? I could barely see the girl through the darkness, but I knew my outburst caught her by surprise.
Okay,
she agreed.
My bad.
The state border really couldn't get here soon enough. I just wanted this whole California nightmare to be over with. But I also couldn't help but wondering something. If this girl believed she was abducted by aliens, then why would she be looking for them again? I fought the urge to ask her that. I knew if I did, I would be opening a whole new can of worms.
I'm sorry.
The girl suddenly whimpers from across from me. Her tone now drastically different to the crazed monologue she was just delivering.
I'm sorry I told you all that stuff. I know how dangerous it is to get rides from strangers, and I figured if I told you all that, you would be more scared of me than I am of you.
So it was a game she was playing. A scare game. Well, good job, I admitted, feeling well and truly spooked. You know, I don't usually pick up hitchhikers, but you're just a kid. I figured if I didn't help you out, someone far worse was going to. The girl again fell silent for a moment, but I could see in my side vision she was looking my way.
Thank you,
she replied. A simple thank you. We remained in silence for the next few minutes, and I now started to feel bad for this girl. Maybe she was crazy and delusional, but she was still just a kid. All alone and far from home. She must have been terrified. What was going to happen once I got rid of her? If she was hitching rides, she clearly didn't have any money. How would the next person react when she told them her abduction story? Don't you dare do it. Just drop her off and go home. You don't owe this poor girl anything. God damn it. Hey, listen, I began, knowing all too well this was a mistake. Since I'm heading east anyways, why don't you just tag along for the ride?
Really? You mean I really don't have to get out in the next town?
The girl sought joyously for reassurance. I don't think I could live with myself if I did, I confirmed to her. You're just a kid after all.
Thank you,
she repeated graciously. But first things first, I then said. We need to go over some ground rules. This is my rig, and what I say goes. Got that? I felt stupid just saying that, like an inexperienced babysitter. Rule number 1, no more talk of aliens or UFOs. That means no more cattle mutilations or mutilations of the sort.
That's reasonable, I guess,
she approved. Rule number 2, when we stop somewhere like a rest area, do me a favor and make yourself good and scarce. I don't need other truckers thinking I abducted you. Shit, that was a poor choice of words. And the last rule. This was more of a request than a rule, but I was going to say it anyways. Once you find what you're looking for, get your ass straight back home. Your family are probably worried sick.
That's not a rule, that's a demand, she pointed out. But alright, I get it. No more alien talk. Make myself scarce. And I'll work on the last one.
I sincerely hope she did. Once the rules were laid out, we both returned to silence, the hum of the road finally taking over.
I'm Chrissy, by the way.
the girl uttered casually.
I guess we ought to know each other's names if we're going to travel together.
Well, Chrissy, it's nice to meet you. I think. God, my social skills are off. If you're hungry, there's some food and water in the back. I'd offer you a place to rest back there, but it probably doesn't smell too fresh.
Yeah, I noticed.
This kid was getting on my nerves already. Driving the night away, we eventually crossed the state border and into Arizona. By early daylight, and with the beaming desert sun shining through the cab, I finally got a glimpse of Chrissy's appearance. Her hair was long and brown with faint freckles on her cheeks. If I was still in high school, she'd been the kind of girl who wouldn't look at me twice. Despite her adult bravery, Chrissy acted just like any 15-year-old would. She left a mess of food on the floor, rested her dirty Converse shoes above my glove compartment, but worst of all, she talked to me. Although the topic of extraterrestrials thankfully never came up, I was mad at myself for not making a rule of no small talk or chummy business. But the worst thing about it was, I liked having someone to talk to for once. Remember when I said even the most reclusive people get too lonely now and then? Well, that was true. And even though I believed Chrissy was a burden to me, I was surprised to find I was enjoying her company. So much so, I almost completely forgot she was a crazy person who believed in aliens. When Chrissy and I were more comfortable in each other's company, I then asked her something that, for the first time on this drive, brought out a side of her that I hadn't seen yet. Worse than that, I had broken rule number 1. "Can I ask you something?"
"It's your truck,"
she replied, a simple yes or no not being adequate. "If you believe you were abducted by aliens, then why on earth are you looking for them?" Ever since I picked her up roadside, Chrissy was never shy of words, but for the first time, she appeared lost for them. While I waited anxiously for her to say something, keeping my eyes firmly on the desert road, I then turned to see Chrissy was too fixated on the weathered landscape to talk, admiring the jagged peaks of the faraway mountains. It was a little late, but I finally had my wish of complete silence. Not that I wished it anymore.
"Imagine something terrible happened to you,"
she began, as though the pause in our conversation was so to rehearse a well-thought-out response.
"Something so terrible that you can't tell anyone about it. But then you do tell them, and when you do, they tell you the terrible thing never even happened."
Chrissy's words had changed. Up until now her voice was full of enthusiasm and childlike awe, but now it was pure sadness. Not fear, not trauma, sadness.
"I know what happened to me was real, even if you don't. But I still need to prove to myself that what happened did happen. I just need to know I'm not crazy."
I didn't think she was crazy. Not anymore. But I knew she was damaged. Something traumatic clearly happened to her, and it was going to impact her whole future. I wasn't a kid anymore. I wasn't a victim of alien abduction. But somehow I could relate.
"I don't care what happens to me. I don't care if I end up like that guy in Brazil. The last thing I see is a craft flying above me or the surgical instrument of some creature. I can die happy. I can die knowing I was right."
This poor kid, I thought. I now knew why I could relate to Chrissy so easily. It was because she too was alone. I don't mean because she was a runaway. Whether she left home or not, it didn't matter. She would always feel alone.
"Hey, can I ask you something?"
Chrissy unexpectedly requested. I now sensed it was my turn to share something personal, which was unfortunate because I really didn't want to.
"Did you really become a trucker just so you can be alone?"
Yeah, I said simply.
Well, don't you ever get lonely? Even if you like being alone.
It was true. I do get lonely, and I always knew the reason why. Here's the thing, Chrissy, I started. When you grow up feeling like you never truly fit in, you have to tell yourself you prefer solitude. It might not be true, but when you live your life on a lie, at least life is bearable. Chrissy didn't have a response for this. She let the silent hum of the wheels on the dirt eat up the momentary silence. Silence that allowed her to rehearse the right words.
Well, you're not alone now, she blurted out. And neither am I. But if you ever do get lonely, just remember this.
I waited patiently for the words of comfort to fall from her mouth.
We are not alone in the universe. Someone or something may always be watching.
I know Chrissy was trying to be reassuring and a little funny at her own expense, but did she really have to imply I was always being watched? I thought we agreed no alien talk, I said playfully. You're the one who brought it up, she said. Her gaze once again returned to the desert's eroding landscape. Chrissy fell asleep not long after. The poor kid wasn't used to the heat of the desert. I was perfectly altered to it, and with Chrissy in dreamland, it was now just me, my rig, and the stretch of deserted highway in front of us. As the day bore on, I watched in my side mirror as the sun now touched the sky's glass ceiling, and rather bizarrely, it was perfectly aligned over the road, as though the sun was really a giant glowing orb hovering over, trying to guide us away from our destination and back to the start. After a handful of gas stations and one brief nap later, we had now entered a small desert town in the middle of nowhere. Although I promised to take Chrissy as far as Phoenix, I actually took a slight detour. This town was not Chrissy's intended destination, but I chose to stop here anyway. The reason I did was because, having passed through this town in the past, I had a feeling this place was where she wanted to be. Despite its remoteness and minuscule size, the town had clearly gone through a great lengths to display itself as a buzzing hub for UFO fanatics. The walls of the buildings were spray-painted with flying saucers in the night sky, but the cutouts and blow-ups of little green men lined the less than inhabited streets. I guess this town had a UFO sighting in its past, and took it as an opportunity to make some tourist bucks. Chrissy wasn't awake when we reached this town. The kid slept more than a carefree baby, but I guess when you're a runaway, always on the move to reach a faraway destination, a good night's sleep is always just as far. As a trucker, I could more than relate. Parking up beside the town's only gas station, I rolled down the window to let the heat and faint breeze wake her up.
Where are we?
She stirred from her seat.
Are we here already?
Not exactly, I said, anxiously anticipating the moment she spotted the town's unearthly decor. But I figured you would want to stop here anyway. Continuing to stare out the window with sleepy eyes, Chrissy finally noticed the little green men.
Is that what I think it is?
Excitement filling her voice.
What is this place?
It's the last stop, I said, letting her know this was where we part ways. Hauling down from the rig, Chrissy continued to peer around. She seemed more than content to be left in this place on her own. Regardless, I didn't want her thinking I just kicked her to the curb, and so I gave her as much cash as I could afford to give, along with a backpack full of junk food.
I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me,
she said, sadness appearing to veil her gratitude.
I wish there was a way I could repay you.
Her company these past 2 days was payment enough. God knows how much I needed it. Chrissy became emotional by this point, trying her best to keep in the tears. Not because she was sad we were parting ways, but because my willingness to help her had truly touched her. Maybe I renewed her faith in humanity or something. I know she did that for me. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said to her, breaking the sad silence. "But do me a favor, will you? Once you find it, get yourself home to your folks. If not for them, for me."
"I will," she promised. "I wouldn't think of breaking your third rule."
With nothing left between us to say, but a final farewell, I was then surprised when Chrissy wrapped her arms around me, the side of her freckled cheek placed against my chest.
"Goodbye,"
she simply said. "Goodbye, kiddo," I reciprocated, as I awkwardly but gently patted her on the back. Even with her, the physical touch of another human being was still uncomfortable for me. With everything said and done, I returned inside my rig. I pulled out the gas station and onto the road, where I saw Chrissy still by the sidewalk. Like the night we met, she stood, gazing up into the cab at me, but instead of an outstretched thumb, she was waving goodbye. The last I saw of her, she was crossing the street through the reflection of my side mirror. It's now been a year since I last saw Chrissy, and I haven't seen her since. I'm still hauling the same job inside the very same rig. Nothing much has really changed for me. Once the next long haul started, I still kept an eye out for Chrissy, hoping to see her in the next town, trying to hitch a ride by the highway, or even foolishly wandering the desert. I suppose it's a good thing I haven't seen her after all this time, because that could mean she found what she was looking for. I have to tell myself that, or otherwise I'll just fear the worst. I'm always checking the news any chance I get, trying to see if Chrissy found her way home. Either that, or I'm scrolling down different lists of the recently deceased, hoping not to read a familiar name. Thankfully, the few Chrissys on those lists haven't matched her face. I almost thought I saw her once, late one night on the highway desert. She blurred into fruition for a moment, holding out her thumb for me to pull over. When I do pull over and wait, there is no one. No one whatsoever. Remember when I said I'm open to the existence of ghosts? Well, that's why. Because if the worst was true, at least I knew where she was. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm pretty sure I was just hallucinating. That happens to truckers sometimes. It happens more than you would think. I'm not always looking for Chrissy. Sometimes I try and look out for what she's been looking for. Whether that be strange lights in the sky or an unidentified object floating through the desert. I guess if I see something unexplainable like that, then there's a chance Chrissy may have seen something too. Or at least that way, there'll be closure for both of us. Over the past year or so, I'm still yet to see anything. Not Chrissy or anything else. If anyone happens to see a 15-year-old girl by the name of Chrissy, whether it be by the highway, whether she hitched a ride from you, or even if you see someone matching her description, kindly put my mind at ease and let me know. If you happen to see her in your future, do me a solid and help her out, even if it's just a ride to the next town. I know she would appreciate it. Things have never quite felt the same since Chrissy walked in and out of my life, but I'm still glad she did. You learn a lot of things on this job, but with her, the only hitchhiker I've picked up to date, I think I learned the greatest lesson of all. No matter who you are, or what solitude means to you, we never have to be alone in this universe.